you know what autism is? No? Do you know what autism is? No? No?
No, what is it? Could you tell how it is, what it is?
Well, there isn't really a set description of autism. Isn't it kind of a spectrum of different diseases like Asperger's and stuff? And it's like a range of emotional problems and such, and cognitive differences or whatever. Or like some kids like have temper tantrums and can't control it, and other things like that.
I don't know the exact medical term, but it's some malfunction of the brain where children that I've seen who have been autistic are super like high sensitivity. I think one of the main things is that they have a really difficult time with change.
Some parts of the brain is turned on that we don't have, and some parts are turned off that we have.
Like one section of the brain is weaker than the other side, and the other side instead is a lot stronger. So he has his like hot spots and cold spots. Like he's better. He taught himself to read, which is great. But then he's not that verbal. Like he can't really speak. You can't have a conversation with him as much. But it makes up for it.
I was only diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome when I was 12 and a half years old. Took a while, went through a couple of different diagnoses before they finally diagnosed me with that. I've been in quite a number of different schools throughout my life, and had difficulty in many of them because they weren't really set up for people with Asperger's syndrome. They just throw different kids together with different issues. We couldn't really find an appropriate school placement. I've always been a quick learner, and the schools weren't equipped to handle that.
Ő önállóságukat apró, látható kapaszkodókkal segíthetjük. Mi ezt úgy hívjuk, hogy vizuális segítségek.
Pakolj el!
Ezeket? Nem, most csak ezt fogjuk.
Öntúroló szerv a mosó mostóba. Szivacsot.
This is our life, and this is, a lot of people don't like to have index cards labeling everything in their house. That doesn't bother me. But making it a place where the kids can be in every room is huge, that there's no place that they can't go and do. I was saying how, we don't have a coffee table, we don't have lamps and breakable things. I had a full-time job. I was a teacher, and I always imagined staying home with my children when they were younger and going back, and I don't think that's on the horizon at all. Our 6-year-old, Abby, is essentially nonverbal. She's learning to speak. She has an augmentative communication device. So all of the words in her world we've kind of posted.
I mean, years ago we would say there's 1 out of 10,000 births would be a child with autism. Now what are we saying? We're saying 1 out of 166. I think that's the latest statistic. And that is a multi-fold increase. Now, are all these diagnoses correct? I'm not going to venture a guess on that, but certainly something is happening.
So, for example, people can have an autism-related condition and be profoundly mentally retarded. Somebody can have an autism-related condition and be an absolute intellectual genius.
Problems having to do with autism are almost epidemic. when the least restrictive environment is sought for a student, in other words, we try to put that student in as much of a mainstream program as we can, it turns out that the students in the mainstream are very often unprepared to receive the special needs student.
People would push me in the hallways, people would write nasty things in my locker, they would one person actually broke in and wrote really mean things in my locker.
And he does not have the language to communicate, he is going to use another behavior to communicate his wants and needs.
For the most part, like, I'm a little bit nervous for when he goes into school, like when he gets into the older grades, if the kids will tease him. But I know that hopefully with this film, kids will understand a little bit better what it's like to have autism, and hopefully that'll get them to understand.